Hello. Welcome to the Exators.
Synctank.
So how is it exactly that we don't know about this is the prostate cancer thing first? That's probably the way to start. What do you
You want
think?
to jump right into it? Okay, let's do it.
I mean, I'm just kind of like I don't get it. Like, so how's it possible that a president with extreme supervision, his entire life, his medical treatments all the time, has terminal prostate cancer at like stage 8 or something like that without anybody knowing?
Stage 4. There's only 4 stages to prostate cancer, but yeah.
That's what they tell you, but there's classified 4 more stages. No, I'm just kidding. But
Okay,
it seems like there's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird
Yeah.
that this whole thing, the surprise terminal cancer thing, feels like some QAnon shit. Am I
think
wrong?
it's-
Like, what do you?
No, it's like it is our own cognitive test. So like we're kind of being cognitively tested, like as a society over this, because it's like it piles up and it's like they really do themselves a disservice by denying what everyone can see. And so like it's like, so there's a lot of factors here. I remember like I had to be reminded, like he said that he had cancer. Like he said it. And it was one of those things where it was a couple years ago. It was one of those things where we were like, oh, that was just one of his weird, like things just come out of his mouth or whatever. And it was like discounted. But he, do you know what I'm talking about? Like he said it into a mic at one point where he was like, me and other people who have cancer, something along those lines. And it was just like very, very stated matter of factly. So like, I think he knew, and his doctor says that it was known, potentially even like prior to him even running in the first place, like for his first run that he had cancer, and so it wasn't terminal.
And why are we only hearing about it now? That's the other thing. I
for
mean,
the same reason that we didn't hear about a lot of things, and it's like,
okay, then why are we hearing about it right now?
Hear about it when it gets to that point, and also for them to finally say it isn't with the her interview. It's just the timing of that is just freaking, it's like, okay, so now we have the interview, so we can listen to it directly of what they were talking about. And the big thing isn't about Biden, it's about all the people covering it up, right? So when people are trying to say you got to be sensitive to Biden, it's like, well, yeah, it's a terrible thing. Cancer's terrible. Nobody likes cancer. I don't, but it's so people wishing death upon Trump, and then all of a sudden, Biden, it's like a test of everybody. Like, how are you going to respond to this? But yeah, I think it's a cognitive test for us, honestly.
And so why? Okay, so that's why we didn't hear about it before. But why are they bringing it up now? Like, what is the reason that today or yesterday they're bringing it up?
Because Jake Tapper's releasing his book right now, and everybody can listen to her interview and hear how he actually sounded when all these people were saying sharp as a tack. So it was immediately afterwards. Like the interview came out, the recordings came out. We can all hear what his state was when all these people were saying he was sharp as a tack. And so now, it's a PR move to get to offset, in all likelihood, to
They're
offset
gonna.
any criticism.
Doesn't it? It seems like maybe they're gearing up to kill him, right? Like that this is just the beginning of like getting him
That's what I
out
mean.
of
It feels like a
picture.
QAnon thing. It
But
feels
he
like
might be
it's
already
a
dead if
secret.
it's
It's like a
QAnon.
it's like a secret public execution thing, because QAnon, the whole idea that they're killing people that they tell you, but they're you. It's like you're seeing the magic trick. Like there's some people that are watching the magician that are like, oh wow, he practices magic, but the magician's also watching the audience, and they're seeing which ones are aware of how the trick works. And so for normal people, it's like, oh, gee, goodbye, Mr. President. But for the the synchro mystic syncretists, what we're talking about, it's like a warning to us or something. It's a nod and a favor to the people that want him dead, but it's also like a warning, like how easily manipulable the plebeians are, that you could literally just kill somebody publicly and they wouldn't know.
Yeah, maybe on Times Square, at Times Square. Sorry, Fifth Avenue. What did he say?
No.
Sorry, there's the Trump quote where he said I could kill somebody on Fifth Avenue and whatever. Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad that I'm not like that. I haven't set myself up that I have to defend any of these people. Like I don't have to defend Trump. I definitely don't have to defend Biden. I will speak to when I see bullshit. So if I see something that's an outright lie, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's Republican or Democrat. If I see the lie, I'll call it out. And I'm glad that I can be in that position and not in the position where I have to defend every little thing from any of these people, like, yeah, I don't know how relevant that is to this conversation, but it popped in my head, so I'm saying it.
Well, I mean, like the basic QAnon thesis is kind of like, isn't it, that it's all a movie and they're
Although
all
that
actors
the
playing
doesn't
parts.
it? Because I mean, I guess Q was on. I'm sorry, excuse my ignorance, but 8chan, right? So it was a profile on 8chan, and we don't know who it was, so it's anonymous. So I guess that's why we can say Q anon. But like, also, did you see that stupid anonymous video that came out recently, talking about Israel and stuff? Like, dude, anonymous, like, what is anonymous anonymous could be anybody that posts a video wearing a Guy Faux mask. Like, I don't know what that even means anymore. You're like, oh, that's the organization, and oh, the organization anonymous, really? Like, what is that even? It's meaningless.
There seems to be
I guess
feds.
something's coming from the official Q account, that's Q, right? We can at least say that.
Yeah, because they have like a trip code or some sort of security. I don't understand how it works, but
I guess the argument is this the general consensus that we know who QAnon was because it's probably the guy who ran 8chan? Is that correct?
no, I mean, that's the popular kind of going dismissal of it that was put forward by that documentary that was put out by HBO and seemed like a very limited hangout sort of deal.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't think that it's ever been fully explained.
Okay.
But with the timing and everything, I mean, I've always felt that it's certainly more legit than just some dude on some weird freak on a message.
I mean, I don't know if that discounts it at all, honestly. Like, if he's in the know, he's in the know, right? I mean,
he might be the top layer of it or whatever, the front.
Right.
But it's funny, like the guy that made that documentary, a year later he comes out and making a documentary about the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto.
Oh, really?
These are these two big, like, online anonymous entities, and he's like the guy that's been tasked with trying to explain them away.
Do you know about that guy? I forget his name, but there's a guy who wrote a book that was like a huge bestseller about the cult on the right. So he talks about the MAGA cult, and it was like, and all these people got really into it. And the guy makes some strong arguments about the cult on the right. But like years later, more recently, he not like another published book, but just on Twitter and elsewhere, I guess, he would make statements about what he perceived as blind spots on the left and referred to, here are the aspects I see of cult-like mentality on the left. And people lost their freaking minds about it, and it really, like, it kind of proved his point too. You could really see the epitome of the cult on the left by this guy. Like, how dare you say that we could exude those same principal dynamics that you've been describing on the right? That's outrageous. And you could just see, whoa, shit, you really are a cult. Like, you know what I mean?
They abound. Everybody is in their own little cult these days.
Yeah. What is happening with Andreas over there? I mean, I guess
it's the German internet.
It's a German internet, man. What is? Yeah,
it's pretty bad, man. I think it's. I'm sorry. It's coming and going like the Bayou shortwave radio. But
you know what?
I wanted to say, but while I still have it, Scott Adams. Can you hear what I'm saying? Is it all right for
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. Scott Adams. Yeah, he's got prostate cancer too. All of a sudden, right?
Okay. Scott Adams has prostate cancer. He has prostate cancer too. Yeah, and so he was saying that it's a terrible disease, it's a horrible way to go, but it's a long enough time that your brain still works, that you can say goodbye to your family and sort out your affairs.
Right. What's the drug
that
called?
Seems like what this is for Biden. He can sort out his affairs. He's got time to do that before he goes.
Right. There's is it ADT? Is that what they give you for the one of the go-to drugs for cancer? So if you look at the side effects of one of the drugs that he in all likelihood would have been taking if this was known for a while, you look at the side effects and it's like cognitive disabilities to the max. Like that's like the prime side effect is like exactly what we're seeing. So I say Occam's razor there. I think it's been known. I think he's been taking medication for it, and it's been really messing with him. You know, that's my guess, but who knows?
Well, I mean, it's nothing we didn't really already suspect. You know, it's just we could all see it, and now I guess it's just about the rolling out of the acceptable excuse for why Joe Biden is so dementia battled, for them to just say like it's this rather than it's a clone or it's Jim Carrey in a mask or whatever. So
I think he's gotten plastic surgery. I think he's got the signs of plastic surgery when people are inspecting weird anomalies like around his ears and different things. It looks like, did he get a facelift and who knows what? Yeah. So I don't know. I'm like, you know, I'm a skeptical person, you know, and I have an open mind. And at the same time, like, I'm like, what's the more likely explanation for Biden's different, you know, like, I mean, it makes sense that you get that old and you're that much of a public figure, like to that level, like it makes sense that they would just, you know, give him all kinds of surgeries. And it may also make sense that they wouldn't announce that, oh, Biden just got plastic surgery to help, you know, and what does that end up looking like? It looks like, you know, looks like what he looks like. I don't know. That's what people in LA look like, but he's older. So, you know, I don't know. Yeah.
Somebody on their chat said about Q. They said Q was real until it went hyperbolic. The feds came in and took it over with presumably an AI system. So Q was real until but like I think it's the opposite, because it's like the first thing Q said was Hillary Clinton will be arrested tomorrow at 10:30 a.m.
Right.
And you go back and read those original posts, and it kind of does feel more like somebody LARPing. And maybe they did.
They say that she did get arrested on 9/11 in 2016.
Yeah,
that's the theory, right?
Yeah. But then, they said that, but then Q came along a year later, and the first thing he said is Hillary Clinton will be arrested tomorrow or on the 30th of October or whatever. So
Q wasn't around till 2017?
Yeah, Q didn't start until October 28th, 2017, which was, I mean, I've done lots of breakdowns about the dating. And that's the thing. The other thing that makes me like take it more seriously is like the timing of it all. It's like really over the top.
Yeah, I know more about Publius Enigma than I do Q. So, you know, that's I'm not the person to listen to.
Well, one of the things is that October 28th was the it's the day of the Philadelphia experiment, supposedly, according to Berlitz and everyone.
The anniversary is what you're saying.
Yeah. The anniversary. Yeah. Let's see how long. 2017, 1943, 74. Oh, of course, it's the 2 times 37th anniversary of the Philadelphia experiment. 74. So, and I relate the Philadelphia experiment to just America in general, because America is the Philadelphia experiment, you know, because it started in Philadelphia and all this stuff. So 7-4. There's so much stuff going on.
Oh shit, that's interesting, because okay, so Philadelphia, Tom Hanks, you say, what was the song? That was The Boss, right? So like the boss, Bruce Springsteen, he just said,
Investigated by Trump, he
yeah,
said.
he like talks some shit, and then he gets shit talked back to him, and then he's got like people coming to his aid to back him up. It feels kind of like the Greasers and Outsiders, you know what I mean? It's like they're like, look, our gang and this gang and whatever. I'm just like, oh, you the tough guy? Like, come on, man, it's so over the top. Oh my
I
god.
mean, but like that's the thing, is we do live in a sort of post-Q world where everything is weird. The whole investigation of Bruce Springsteen thing is weird, right? Like that does feel like
Right.
a Q thing. I don't know. I mean, like if that also, it was the time that Hillary was freaking out about the Pepe frog, and she was wearing that ankle bracelet. People thought she had that boot because she supposedly hurt her ankle. So there's all these, questions. We were living in a world where it seems like there's an illusion that's put in front for normal people to see, while people who can handle it are allowed to know what's really going on. And that seems like the world we're living in pretty strongly right now.
Do you
A
catch how
veiled
like
Zohar.
these are the two pillars, right? In a sense, you have
Was thinking it.
Taylor Swift, Bruce Springsteen, the boomers and the millennials, right? Or whatever, like even Z, whatever. But you have like this it's getting it from kind of both sides, and it's also this whole thing is coming to a head of celebridom, that celebritism doesn't mean what it used to mean. And a lot of this is like predicted by Andy Warhol, honestly, like the future of what it means to be a celebrity, where he's like, everyone's going to be a celebrity if they want to be at some point, practically, like, and then we'll have a dead celebrity every day, where you're like, oh, we're gonna, this person, because
it's gonna make
like,
my job so hard.
well, yeah, I mean, if you start having to work in Grumpy the cat into your into your parent thesis,
I've already got
like,
Lolita the orca.
there you go.
Plenty
Yeah.
of stuff. So
Exactly. But yeah, no. So, and I it's interesting. CBS. You have, okay, so 60 Minutes, the executive producer of 60 Minutes for years has walked away. 60 Minutes will never be anything like the journalism that it used to be. 60 Minutes was like, I try to illustrate this to people. I think most people know it, but like when we talk about fake news or like the difference of journalism, what was and what journalism, like 60 Minutes in 1976, like they've done a lot of things, but one of the things that stands out to me was that they actually put the head of the CDC in 1976 on the hot seat on 60 Minutes and got a vaccine pulled over the adverse events of that vaccine. They helped do that. They're part of that. And like I've talked about on the show before, that Mary Tyler Moore was on there, and she's like, oh my God, I didn't know what I was supporting and all this stuff. And you look at the contrast of then to now, how many adverse events did it take to pull the vaccine? They're like, if it's 1 out of 100,000, no, this is serious. And so now it's like, oh, we're willing to have some collateral damage, to what extent, if it saves one life, and like just looking at what 60 Minutes has become versus what it was. Like 60 Minutes was the only place that I know of, maybe there was someone else that covered it, but the 20%, 10,000 IDF soldiers that dropped out of the mandatory military service, it was on 60 Minutes 3 weeks before October 7th, 2023, where they did this expose on the protesters, the IDF protesters, about Netanyahu's government. Like almost nobody covered that, but 60 Minutes did. I think we've reached the end of 60 Minutes being that. Is there now another parent company that owns them or whatever? Like everything is shifting. And the lawsuit that Trump had, they just freaking settled. Didn't that just happen? $20 million or something for the Kamala interview? Like, and what does that speak to? It speaks to that celebritism doesn't mean what it used to be. Her whole campaign was like, we're going to pay all these celebrities to endorse, and this should be enough, right? Because people like celebrities, right? It doesn't mean what it used to mean. It does to some people, but it doesn't have the same authority that it once did. And I think that like, if you look at what's happened with 60 Minutes, is kind of indicative of that dramatic shift that's happened, and journalism is attached to that in the same way that to what it means to be a celebrity to people doesn't. And so like when you look at what's happening with Bruce Springsteen and Taylor Swift now, it's like, this doesn't mean what it meant at one time. Even if you go back 5 years ago, it doesn't mean the same thing, because people, I've kind of picked up on that. These people are like, that's one of the big things that happened to me with Twitter, was like, I had no idea how dumb and how smart different celebrities actually were, because most of the stuff that I knew them from, especially if you're talking about actors or even musicians, if they don't write their own music, like how scripted it all is. Like, I didn't realize. I was like, dude, I thought I knew this person, and then it turns out, no, everything I've ever heard from them has been scripted. And you could say the same thing about a lot of politicians. And I mean, we're talking about Biden, like everything for the most part was scripted. And when he went off script, then it was like, wait, what is happening? And I think that's the thing that people resonate with as dumb as Trump can be. It's like, at least he's not on script all the time. Like, he's on the cuff. And if he says something dumb, it's like, well, he is on the cuff. You know what I mean? It's like,
he says so much. He just keeps talking. It doesn't even. He drowns us all in his verbiage. He's a Gemini, so
totally. And also, people have picked up on what do people have on them, and what are they covering? Not that it's that in all cases. Sometimes they're just
or whatever. What is it? What the whole concept of a star? Like whatever. Crowley's got every man is a star. It's not every woman on TV, or not every person on TV is a star. It's every person is a star. And we kind of outsourced it all to these on-screen kind of deity people that we've and I'm guilty of that too, because like Cryptic is all about sort of analyzing these people, these weird people. Like, why are these people so weird? Basically in Hollywood, and it's got something to do with something outside of time, I think, more so than just they're idiots. I mean, that's a big part of it. Like, they're empty, literally like empty vessels, I think, in some ways, being
or they're just in a very closed paradigm. So when you're not just talking about somebody who's got some, Epstein or Diddy thing on them or whatever, but they're just, there's people that exist in a very closed paradigm. Like, I've talked about this. I think Kanye West is in a very closed paradigm where everyone around him is just sucking up to him, and everybody wants something from him, and it's got to be a living nightmare. Like, that's hell. Like, I can't imagine what it'd be like to everybody that you interact with is like trying to get something from you, and there's just no authenticity. Like, we have a mutual friend that admitted to me that they're kind of like that they're a bit of a they have a attitude about women because they're so famous, and every time that they interact with a woman, for the most part, they find out who he is, and then there's no authenticity. So it's hard for him to have like the same respect for people when they're inauthentic with him. It's like, you don't respect people that are inauthentic with you, or if they imbue you in a certain way because of your because of your status. Like, it's I don't even know how they navigate this world, some of these people. It's got to be weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's must be why they all age and like look so haggard by the time they get to that point where it's just.
Yeah, it's like, dude, who's around Kanye West that's not totally standing him? And if they're not standing him, then they're just like scapegoating him. So
you heard that Kanye West is gonna give the proceeds from his new record to the Holocaust Memorial Museum.
I heard that he wasn't doing that. I heard that was what they were doing with the leak. He's not actually choosing to do that. I listened to that whole album actually the other night because it leaked, and it's not very good. I mean, I'm not saying that just because it's Kanye's music and it's controversial or something. I'm like, literally, like, objectively, like, I don't think it was very good. It's like,
I guess it's his best album though, ironically.
No, I mean, he's had good albums, just like even just the Ye album, the 2018 album
was a jam. I don't know, but I feel like his nitrous anthem wasn't bad. I could be wrong. I thought it was.
I haven't listened to a single
Gas Chamber.
So I here being in Germany, I know it really triggers people, and I'm a fan of triggering people. And a lot of people here have this kind of ironic thing where like you shouldn't have individual expression of unique opinions, right? And so basically, if you think that the Reich or the Germans of World War II should be like considered or thought of at all, then you should be oppressed and you should be suppressed. And that's just it's very ironic, you know what I mean? It's like it's a funny stereotype about the people, but that's you got to put yourself into Kanye's shoes or something, like in his little Auschwitz camp shoes or something, because his idea that he's been oppressed and he's this rich guy who's been oppressed. I mean, I think Owen Benjamin said it best, where it's like it must be really hard to be like an anti-Semitic black homosexual person. Like I get like it must be very confusing to be Kanye West, but the whole point of his album and his circumstance is he's saying that he feels like the victim that had his family taken away from him. And so the people that are the Nazis are telling him that he's the Nazi. So he's kind of taking the term.
Right, but it's actually, let's be clear with that. I mean, you could talk about his bank account and like saying, oh, he said something in his bank account. Like, I get that. Kim Kardashian, like her lawyers and all the money and everything, like whatever happened there, like that's, you know, and that could be men or women that do that to each other if we're just talking about the phenomenon of taking kids away. But like, you know, it's like, dude, that's, you're not talking about Kim and her lawyers. You're talking like, it's very primal. It's just like it's reactive. It's like, if you put me into this position, I'm just gonna go there. You tell me what's the thing I'm not allowed to say. Okay, I'll say that because screw all of y'all. And so yeah, it's a very reactionary thing.
Not just because screw all of you all. It's because the more you tell me not to say something, the more important it is that I say it. Because it's no longer about what I believe or what you believe. It's actually about freedom of speech and expression. And freedom of speech and expression are so much more important than any group's well-being or any person's happiness or satisfaction. And we have to be very careful because we're living in a world now where people want the collective state to have stability more than they want the individual to have the opportunity for self-realization. And self-realization comes only from a state that allows for individuals' free expression of minority opinions, particularly ones that don't make sense, right? Because ones that don't make sense are the most easy to debunk. If you don't test those things, then it makes his argument much more powerful. Because if no one's allowed to say it, then that makes it almost more valuable than truth.
Absolutely. Well, what it does is it imbues it and it makes it all the more interesting to people. It sensationalizes it and it has a paradoxical effect. I agree with you. Because like if somebody says something and everybody freaks out and says, you can't say that, everyone's like, wait, what did he say? Like it's like it piques the interest, you know. The best way I could put it is that it imbues it. And that it keeps happening. Like that's why I say like
winning hard, huh?
Oh yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
So I wanted to bring this up, just the Dave Blunt's connection.
California rape. Tell me about what's going on here.
Well, this is the guy that wrote Kanye's album, and so when I saw this picture, I looked at his dates and stuff, and then I noticed that he was going to be 23 years and 7 months old on February 1st of 25. Wow. So that's why I wrote. And then
the same age as Michelangelo when he sculpted the Pietà.
Yeah, something like that. I was like, is he gonna like have a heart attack or something? But it turns out he hooked up with Kanye like in February. That's when the whole partnership with Kanye started. And then he writes this song, and the Heil Hitler song. If you scroll down, it just shows that the song is 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Actually, it's not.
Oh boy,
you might have to.
But I believe you.
Yeah, the song was 2 minutes and 37 seconds. So I don't know what's going on about it, but
right. So this is the thing, right? Is that Kanye was always known to. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be, but wasn't Kanye kind of known to be like pride himself on being such like a songwriter? Like this, I'm a genius. Like this is all my stuff, and like it seems like that was kind of weird because I saw an interview with this guy, and he's completely just totally taking credit for writing the lyrics of this album. So. Like that seems kind of strange for Kanye to like,
and then nobody's like giving him any shit either. Like,
right? I mean, that was the thing. Say what you will about Eminem, but that was like one of the things. He's like, I don't have ghostwriters. Like, this is all me. Like, you know, like it's kind of a weird thing to even have that, especially when people are attributing everything to a musician. I mean, at least with Elton John, it was like it was known the whole time. Like, this is not. I did not write any of this. You know. I just sing and I play piano, you know, like it's weird. It's really weird.
It feels like an op, you know. I don't know what his whole
Right?
deal
If
is.
there
but-
was an argument that it's an op, look at that picture, dude. Like, what is happening? Like,
well, that guy just, I don't know. It's a gimmick, you know. It's like wrestling, you know. It's like
is it? Yeah.
Yokozuna or something that's just like really, it works for him. But
John, my buddy John Henry Mills Warrington, he posted recently this, and then this goes back to the Biden thing. But I was thinking about in terms of sync, Biden did push so hard for curing cancer, right? That was his big thing. He wanted to be president because he said he could cure cancer. He's putting all that money.
Didn't he?
We're
We're
his
gonna
whole
cure
thing.
cancer. He said it so much. I forgot about that. I keep remembering things of cancer related with Biden, like over the years, and now I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah, there's something about that that's pretty interesting.
Is that like The Fountain? Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain, where Hugh Jackman is trying to find the cure for cancer because his wife has cancer, and he's just like, you know, under the gun about it. I don't know.
cancer sucks.
Cancer sucks. It's true.
It's absurd that politicians are trying to cure cancer when it's just the opposite. I don't know. They're encouraging cancer. I'm sorry.
When they are cancer,
When they
they're like
are.
trying to cure themselves from existence. Yeah.
Apparently.
What about this?
We investigated cancer. We found that cancer did nothing wrong. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Taylor Swift was on the Legends Corner mural in Nashville, Tennessee. You see her here, right?
Dude.
Now she's not. They removed her. They removed her from the Legends mural.
Why? What's happening?
Well, I mean, I wonder. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
They saw her try to dance.
This happened after the dead body was discovered near her property, right?
When was that?
The other day.
Boy, the other day. So human remains found by her by what's it called? Okay, so human remains near her Rhode Island mansion. There was like a body that's found on the property, just very close to her house. It was probably a couple football fields away from Taylor Swift's house and the Ocean house. I would never expect anything like that, especially not on Watch Hill. Wow, Freudian slip. But what about that song she wrote, No Body, No Crime, right?
Interesting. So now we get to dig into her repertoire and see, you know, I mean, speaking of people writing their music, like she does write all of her own lyrical content in her pop songs. Does she not?
You don't think it was Lucifer? Maybe, yeah, I think she might.
Lucifer, did she invoke Lucifer?
I feel like the devil would write better music than Taylor Swift.
But it's weird because she is a pop star. Let's be clear. She's not, so for her to be in the country thing, it doesn't really make sense, right? Because she was, and then she wasn't, right? Which she did go country, didn't she? What happened? Because there was the opposite thing that happened with the woman who I would argue she replaced, which was well, I guess no. How's it go? Billy Ray Cyrus and Miley Cyrus, like she came from a country background. I kind of look at Taylor Swift that she kind of, in a way, replaced Miley Cyrus when Miley Cyrus was no longer acceptable for young people when she was like twerking on the Disney Channel or whatever. You know, like she could not be connected to something like Disney, whereas Taylor Swift could. So she kind of like filled in her role. But there's a whole argument to be had there. Like she is literally Hannah Montana, the character that was being played by Miley Cyrus. Like she is the living embodiment of that character in a way. But it was Beyonce who had the best country album of the year at the Country Music Awards. By the way, my friend Lisa just got the Norwegian, I think, soul album of the year, and she's a country singer. But she was on American Idol back when they used to just rip into people, and she's just a phenomenal freaking singer, Lisa Lichner. And they said that she couldn't make it as a musician because of her weight. And I'm like, you mother, like I was so mad watching that. It's so cringe because they're just like, they have this whole attitude. I'm like, a soul singer? Are you kidding me? She's not even close to Mama Cass.
Look at Dave Blunt. I mean, come on.
Dude, name a lot of people. You're like, what is it? But they used to do that on there. They'd just be really awful to people. And
Lizzo, though, right? Yeah, Lizzo's.
yeah, what the hell is going on? But anyway, yeah, I don't know, man. Dead body on Taylor Swift's property. Is it by her property? It's on her property. What's the deal? Yeah. Oh, but I was gonna say Beyonce, or that album. Am I saying her name right? Beyonce.
I say Beyonce. I don't care.
Okay, well, she had the country album. She had country music guests like Dolly Parton's on there. Willie Nelson's on there. I think she does a cover of Blackbird on there. I don't hear any actual country. How is it the best country album of the year? It reminds me of like the male athletes competing in the women's sports. I'm like, you're gonna say like woman of the year and it's a freaking man. It's like best country album of the year and it's not country. That's where we're at. Like that feels like some Orwellian like 2 + 2 = 5 bull. Like I don't understand.
But, it's just advertising, dude. It's just they pay for it. It's not.
Well, I mean, there's a shift that happened with awards.
John Draper,
right? Like that goes back to Philadelphia. Actually, speaking about Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, like it was a decent movie. But it was the issue. The issue is what sold. There was like all these people who were on the panel at the Oscars who get to decide, who get to vote for what the like best picture is, and it was like. When I really just lost any real interest or respect for the Oscars was when you had all these people that voted for 10 years a slave or 12 years a slave, 12 years a sloth. What is it?
2 + 3 + 7.
That said that they didn't watch the movie. So like they voted for the movie because of the cause. They didn't vote for the movie because it's a freaking good movie. Like Anora got Best Picture. That was a good movie. Anora was a good movie. Was it Best Picture though? Of all the movies that were produced, like really no, it's because it was about sex work, And I'm not putting the movie down. I'm just saying.
Really I mean, you can tell all the winners of the Oscars it's all agenda. It's all political agenda.
It's funny you bring it up.
Yeah, like they're like Aaron Brockovich, like Julia Roberts. Like this is not. Oh.
Even like the Brutals was the other.
So with Eurovision this year. So Yuval Raphael. Sorry, I just want to say Yuval Raphael was the singer of Israel this year, which I didn't. As an American, I'm not very good at geography, so I didn't realize Israel was in Europe. But it is what it is. They were very close to winning, even though most. For saying this, am I back? They don't want me to tell you this.
You're here, I guess.
The audience were booing. They were booing Israel. Like there's a lot of boos heard in the video. You can actually hear in the background and people protesting. And it is what it is. Like obviously Europeans, like anti-Semitism is really popular with the left this year. Who saw the card. But this is a woman who had shrapnel in her leg from the Gaza the event was October 7th or whatever it is.
Oh, she was there at the raid.
There was a yeah, or I don't know if she was at that exact. I think that's the deal. I have to look up the thing. I think that's what they were trying to insinuate. Raphael shrapnel. Let me look that up here. Yeah, it says she survived the October 7th attacks.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the deal. So the thing is, while the audience were upset, allegedly it said that she scored 357 total combined points, with a lot of those points coming from the audience, even though the audience were innocent. So they were booing. So a major portion of people now are saying that it feels like Eurovision was encouraging manipulation of the voting system to try to force Israel to win. And you have to imagine what that would mean. It would be whoever wins Eurovision, that's $100 million that country is going to spend to host Eurovision next year. So it would have brought Eurovision to Israel next year. And I think this is a major...
Oh, he's out. Damn. No, that's interesting. So I gotta say though, I did a tweet about this because like you look at the I don't know if it was during her performance, but there was like all these protesters. I don't know if you saw this, where like the security's like there's like one protester in particular who's being held back. He's like gone past the barrier right at the front of the Eurovision, and he's screaming about Palestine. And there's like some security guy like hits him in the back of the head or whatever, and like people were reacting to it, and I was just like totally went to Pauly Shore. Like, I don't know if you remember, like the there it is, the Future of America. Do you remember there was like a he did the stand up way back when in the 90s, and you could get this on CD, but he was describing the Guns N' Roses show where there's like he eggs on his friend to go on the stage, who's like, they didn't come to see Guns N' Roses, man, they came to see you. And he like goes up on the stage and he's doing the stoner skank, and the security just runs and like grabs this guy, and they're like, toss him like a rainbow, and he gets all bloody and smashed up, and then it's like he loses teeth or whatever, and he goes to see him after the show, and he gets to his friend, and he's just like, oh man, I'm so, like he's all messed up, and he's like, well, I didn't think you'd do it, dude. And he's like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just thinking, I was like, is it like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, people are upset that this guy got whacked in the back of the head a bit, but I'm just like, I don't care, whatever the cause is. Like, if you go to a show and you like cross the line, like, why do they have security? Like, what does security do when you do that? You know what I mean? Like, it felt to me like another example of like how far removed we are from what was a given in, like, say the 90s, you know what I mean? Or even just a few short years ago. It's like everything's there. It is. So they they pull his hair and whack him in the back of the head. So it's like, that is just like total abuse. And I'm like, dude, I'm surprised that this guy didn't just get tossed like a rainbow. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, whatever cause happens to me,
and,
you know,
chicken wing him and
yeah, I have like a reaction to any kind of protest or activism where I can't see the actual connection between the thing that's being protested and like means and ends should be identical in my view. It's kind of like, that's kind of like a MLK kind of position, you know, where you're like, well, what are you trying to achieve? Shouldn't the means of you trying to achieve that resemble the thing that you're trying to achieve? Like, in other words, you think that if you block traffic, if you're a college student and you're a group of college students and you block traffic, do you think that one person in that who's experiencing not getting to work on time, or they're playing on time or whatever, do you think you're going to get one person to join your cause? Like, there's no connection. Like, there's no, like, where's the, you know? So, and that is another example of like what I see as kind of like the 2 + 2 = 5 kind of phenomenon, where you're like, can't you just like have some correspondence between the thing that you're trying to achieve and what it is that you're doing? Like, you're gonna get the opposite effect. Like, it's just like a freaking no-brainer. It just blows my mind. But yeah, I don't know.
it just seems designed to piss people off rather than that, and just divide rather than.
Well, you should be uncomfortable. Yeah, but what is that doing for your cause? Like, I mean, yeah, there's places where it's like discomfort has its place and what you're trying to achieve, but not just for discomfort's sake. Like, they're just, if anything, they're just going to feel that much more against your cause. They're going to be like, oh, what, whenever it comes up, you know what I mean?
They pretty much figured out how to deal with protests like in the 60s. You know, it was just like, and how to like not just deal with them physically, but to like mentally break them down before they even happen. And it's Arrested Development had the great joke about that with like, she goes to a protest, some military thing, and it's like, oh, we have the army welcomes free speech, and they puts them in this little cage, and they're just like,
yeah, that happened to
enjoy your right to free speech.
Abadessa, where he went to go protest at a 9/11 thing. He was at Ground Zero, and they were like, oh, here's your free speech zone. Yeah, put you into corral you into a little area, and you're like, you have all the free speech you want over here. And then they freaking, anyone who's got a cell phone, now they know who the dissidents are, you know, now they can go, you know, search your house. Yeah, crazy.
So dissent is not what it used to be, you know. We got to figure out different ways of not endorsing these systems and so forth. Other than just going out on the street and getting really mad and beat.
I'm totally down to like do digs at Trump if they're good digs, like if they check out. And you're doing everybody a disservice when you want to cling to something that doesn't check out. The, you know, good people on both sides hoax. You know what I mean? Like, have some real criticisms. I got plenty of criticisms, but why is it that I almost never hear them mentioned anywhere, you know, like the chief of the IRS that he put in place that had $1 million in Trump properties on Hawaii, and, you know, like that he had just, you know, written the opinion piece prior to his appointment arguing that Trump should never have to turn over his tax returns, you know, and like stuff like that. I'm like, dude, that's legit criticism. Like, the thing you're like, but like the Russia hoax and all this stuff, it's like, I don't, why? Like, why waste all this money and all this time on a giant nothing burger? It's freaking ridiculous. Like, I don't care. And the big joke, as Dave Chappelle likes to point out and what I resonate with, is like, all the things that you could get them on, the reason why they're not getting them on them is because all these other people are doing them, including Pelosi and Schumer and all these people. Like, what why are you messing around with all of these like wild goose chases when there's things that you can call, well, because they're all doing it. You can't get them on things that you're all doing, because then it highlights it and it puts you into a position where now you're vulnerable, you know, because this is all of these politicians are doing the same shady stuff, you know.
Yeah, Trump is just he's the like I've said before, he's like the logical extension of the logical conclusion endpoint of the system itself. Like the system shat him out, and
Yeah.
he's like Neo, basically, but he's like he can just wave his hand and he figures out becomes president. I don't know. It's
What about the American Pope and the Vatican being the world peace talks for East and West Tartary? America and Russia are going to have their peace talks for Ukraine under the
Yeah.
Pope's advisement in the Vatican.
Well, I mean,
I don't know, man.
I had a good conversation with somebody who I'm close with yesterday. I'm not going to say any names, but he has some connections, and he told me some stuff. And you know, it sucks. I wish I could share my source, but he was talking about how some of the specific good things about what has just happened with Trump going to the Middle East, and why, like, it's actually exactly what's needed and appropriate for if what you really want is peace, like, and what he just did with Qatar and what he just did with Saudi Arabia. And he said that the problem is that Republican or Democrat, whoever goes in next, if because of the nature of how people in the Middle East relate to a deal, if they don't stay true to what the agreement was one way or the other, this could really backfire. So he's like, basically, like, it's a very delicate situation, because, you know, like, even if it was like Canada, I know Trudeau was just removed, but technically speaking, like, the way that they relate with the president is that he could be in as long as he wants to for his whole life if he remains popular, you know, which is
Emperor, king.
yeah. So if it was Canada that had done that and he would remain popular, we wouldn't have to worry about it. We'd be like, the deal's the deal. This is the thing on into the future. And it's not like, I'm just naming Canada, but it could be any Middle Eastern country if they made a deal and they're like, okay, but if they go and they do what they've been doing, where anything that's not codified, that's an executive order, just gets overturned. If they do the same thing with the deal that's being made with these people in the Middle East, like, that could be a really dangerous, bad thing. But, you know, and he was explaining to me how, you know, like, yeah, you can, even the things that you could technically, you say, oh, well, he's so you know, vulnerable to like bribery or whatever. Like, they were trying to get rid of that plane since 2020. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot. It costs a lot to store it, to maintain it, and it's actually being phased out. Those kind, like the palace in the sky thing, it's just a big pain in the ass, and it's going to end up in the presidential library, like Reagan's ended up in the library. So, which is kind of crazy to have a plane in the library, but I guess that's what they do.
Yeah.
They take it apart and reassemble it and whatever the hell they do. But the point is that, you know, that you're the dynamics that exist with these people and how they relate to America, like, this is actually, like, it's unprecedented. Like, this hasn't really happened before like this, you know. The dynamic that's existing right now is like totally a complete shift from what has historically taken place, and for all intents and purposes, it is a good thing. But time will tell just how good of a thing it is, depending on where we go from here in the future, you know. It's pretty
Well,
crazy.
things changed a lot from February. I mean, so Trump being the best thing that ever happened to Israel, the best friend of Israel, Netanyahu, and him being friends. Even at the time, you heard more and more Trump saying that he's going to make peace as long as Netanyahu's reasonable. But you have to be reasonable, Netanyahu, verbatim. I remember that in the speech.
Yeah, well,
And
he's never been
he put
popular.
tariffs.
Yeah,
He put tariffs on Israel, even though Netanyahu wanted to get rid of tariffs. It seems like it's interesting to watch Trump go 180 on Israel, and then all of a sudden he's really making friends with the Arabs, and that's mostly interesting because of what that does to mainline Republicans. Mainstream Republicans are now saying, well, Republicans who used to want to turn Muslims into dog food are now saying, well, they're not all bad. It's amazing to watch Midwesterners become pro-Arab like that.
Right. Well, there's pro-Arab in there, and then there's like actually like working towards peace and being like, these people are who these people are, and do we want to have endless war or not? And so that becomes the bigger question, because we're not going to change the customs of
we are changing the customs of America, though. I think they're changing their own customs. We started by watching the traditional hair flipping. So first off, they're not putting their hair in hijabs from Trump. They're flipping their hair in the streets for him. And I think that Grandpa is dead. So Mohammed bin Salman's father's dead. The old, like, it's like, don't call me, Sultan Salman. That was my father's name. You can call me like Mohammed Salman. So things are changing quickly. And Islam doesn't have to mean what it meant in the 20th century. It can mean what it meant in the 7th century, when it was a lot more of a liberal religion. A lot of this, I mean, you have to remember, women had property rights because of Islam. So it's very flexible in a way people don't understand. The same way Christianity went from being burning people at the stake to this alleged utopian socialist religion of Europe. There's no reason that Islam can't be part and parcel to that. The customs that are changing are the American customs, because America went from saying that these people are barely human, right? We had subhuman propaganda about Arab people on American television for the last 20 years. So all of a sudden now, oh, they're actually so great. I mean, in Qatar, they have lots of Ferraris. Oh, in Saudi Arabia, they have esports. We're going to go skiing on Mount Sinai. You saw that they're turning the mountain that Moses got the 10 Commandments into a tourist ski trap with geoengineers.
I'm surprised that didn't already happen sooner, but yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that like the Christian Zionists, of which there's far more Christian Zionists than there are Jewish Zionists in America. Like, I'm surprised that with all the money behind that they haven't turned portions of that area into like a Christian Disneyland and a Judeo-Christian Disneyland. Like, that just seems like what would have happened by now. So I don't know,
It seems to be. I mean, it seems to be going on right now. So okay. So let's see. What about the next one? How about the humpback whales? Humpback whales are starting to make this major recovery. Baby on board. There's this whole thing with the radio signal that whales are producing, and we've gone from a period of major, I want to say, endangering of whales to maybe in the last 5 years, there's a major increase in the production of, population of whales.
Mhm.
Do you see this as some? I mean, like, because we were looking at radio signals in the last few years that they were changing their frequencies, and now with AI, there's been communication with whales where we can interpret and understand them and communicate back with them. Do you see this as like a potential, maybe when we're talking about world peace, we're not just talking about international, but we're talking about interspecies world peace now, and deals being made with sperm whales and hopefully blue whales?
I think they're holding down the planet. Like, I've thought that since I was a kid, honestly.
Yeah.
Like that's what echoes is for me. Like, that it gets profound. You know what I mean? Like, there's like I think they're freaking, they're the closest thing we have to contact to extraterrestrial existence on planet Earth. So like, in terms of their intelligence, like, they're like an extraterrestrial intelligence, and like what they're actually, what sonar is, like what echo is, like, I feel like there's something to that. And it's very interesting that it's our military equipment that's been messing with like that. See the just on a symbolic level, the way that you have the military and the most like such what a whale is, like the intelligence of a whale, like it's just like it's like the embodiment of the primordial like ohm, you know what I mean? Like there's something to that, you know what I mean? Like there's an intelligence there that we need to incorporate, you know, like people talk about like plant medicine having this intelligence, like you incorporate, like if you do ayahuasca or something like that. But like what whales are, what dolphins are, like in like there's it's another level. Like if there was a drug that you could take that could take the intelligence of that, like that kind of you know, the intelligence of a whale and like integrate it into your own experience for a few hours or whatever, like that would be that would change everything in terms of our consciousness, you know, in like probably the best way possible, you know. But,
yeah, and it seems like they're all of a sudden finding them more and more around Antarctica, which is kind of interesting too, from the whole like we're going to Antarctica and building the new world order out of Antarctica. I don't know.
yeah, I got a movie recommendation for you guys, for anybody listening. Swinging Safari, one of the most underrated freaking movies that's come out in the last, I don't know, it came out like 5 years ago or something. It's an Australian film that centers around a whale washing up on a beach, and I couldn't do it justice. It's like life in the 70s in Australia, and it's like one of the most understated movies of like the last 10 years in my opinion. But yeah, anyway, just putting it out there.
This does look good. I feel like
Kylie
whale
Minogue
related.
to watch.
I feel like I nearly watched this. What were you saying? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Alex. What were you saying?
Just now I was saying about like Kylie Minogue in a movie is any kind of watch. It's a good watch for me. But I sent a link in the chat to something we could talk about. You were talking about earlier, the Trump plane deal.
Yes.
I think this is where it warrants more looking at. Like I looked at what this is the type of plane it was. It's 747-8. 47, you know, Trump is 47.
Ooh.
And not only that, but like think about his whole being elected on January 20th or being
And
inaugurated.
there's 17 pictures on Wiki. 17 pictures.
Nice. Perfect.
Nice.
His inauguration, he's 70 years, 7 months, 7 days old, which is a 777, like,
Right,
which implies the lightning flash, you know?
Sure.
And if you Google 777 lightning flash, what you're going to get is Boeing 777s being struck by lightning. So, and then the other thing about this plane I looked at is, or I just noticed one of the dates on the introduction, the what does it say? The first flight of the 747-8I, which I think is the kind of plane that he received, was March 20th, 2011, which would be Barron's birthday, Barron's 5th birthday. And from that day until this week, basically, we are 740 weeks since that plane was first introduced. So there's all this 74-47 signaling going on with Trump, and it's like all really like ritualistic. So that's why I'm thinking about this
Qatar
plane deal.
Qatar, and then Q Qatar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's the line. It's not like that's the thing. Like it's when you talk about like the 777 lightning flash, right? That the reason it's called that is because if you add up the gematria of the pathways that make up the lightning flash in the Kabbalistic tree, it totals 777, right? So if the attributions that are utilized by the Golden Dawn and the OTO. So although you can find instances in the Zohar where it indicates that same pattern, even though the Ari and elsewhere don't show you that. You don't see that in the Sefer Yetzirah, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, the point being is that as you're looking at that lightning flash, right, it's the time warp, right? It's just a step to the left, another step to the right, and on and on. That's why like Barak means lightning, right? So like Obama's name means lightning. If you say Barak, you get the same thing you do with the homunculus. If you're making a golem and you put a met on its forehead and you remove the aleph and you get met, so it goes from truth to death. So if you say Barak, if you just add an aleph to Barack Obama's name in Hebrew, you get the Hebrew word for Sirius. And so the middle pillar associated with Sirius, what's the first extension from the top of the middle pillar from Keter? It's Aleph. So you just add the Aleph and so that's the first extension of the lightning flash on that side of the tree. So from Keter to Chochmah, that's the first yud of the tetragrammaton that spells itself out throughout the extensions, right? So it's literally you just take that aleph, add it to the lightning in the Hebrew, and you get it's lightning becomes Sirius. Totally crazy, right? So, but I was just, yeah, I don't know. It's like, so for me, when we were talking about this thing, we were like, all these places where like Trump with the 777 thing, even with the stock market crash and all those associations.
Yeah, stock market crash. There's also the fact that the wrinkle that the Trump Tower, the Trump card is that was 2016. Yeah, he's elected in the 16th year, which is the Tower Trump, which is the lightning struck tower.
Yeah.
Right? Is that right?
Yeah. The 16th arcana is the Trump Tower. Yes.
Yeah. So he was elected 11/9/16, and then he, and then took time. And then there's tower fires on his first birthday in office on June 14th. The Grenfell Tower fire in London that happened on his birthday.
There's also the kid who used the suction cups to climb up the Trump Tower and made it 21 floors exactly, making it like the tarot tableau where he becomes the fool. He's the 22nd on the other side. You know what I mean? There's 22 letters. That arcana, and then he is the fool ascending through
that story is predicted in there's a David Foster Wallace story that probably not many people have read called Mr. Squishy. It's the first story in his book Oblivion. It's one of the best short stories ever written, and it's like Mr. Squishy, and it's like it has all things going on. But one of the meta narratives is a guy climbing the tower with suction cups, and it's all about advertising and I don't know, and it's very ominous. Like you're always building to this conclusion that never arrives. Like what is happening? Why is this guy climbing? So there's just lots of this stuff.
This guy who did that, like that kid, and all he wanted was Trump's attention. And then once he had his attention, he didn't really have anything of significance to say. Like it's kind of weird. Like you're like, oh, what did you need to get? Oh, there's nothing. Okay, but he reminds me of like kind of like a flip side of what's that guy's name who put the wire between the two towers?
Philip Petit.
Philippe Petit. Yeah. So that guy. Like the symbolism of that is like the pathway of strength of Tet between Gevurah and Chesed, right? Like for him to do that, and the fact that he would like be that he's just doing it for his own reasons, like makes it all the more profound, right? So like I feel that with that kid in both cases, you're like you have the archetype of the fool, and the fool is doing this extremely symbolic action. The fact that they don't know it is what makes it so profound. Hence,
what's August 13th? That makes him like a Virgo, right? Is that the deal?
Leo, actually.
Leo.
It looks like a Leo.
Yeah, strength.
Yeah. Sorry.
Leo corresponds to strength.
August, not September. Yeah.
What was I going to say about
that pathway?
Oh yeah, when that movie, The Walk, came out, I wrote this big blog post about it back then. That it was simultaneous with the Pope arriving in New York City. Like the Pope was in New York City when they premiered that movie in New York City, The Walk, with about the joining of the towers. So it's like, and that was a Robert Zemeckis movie. I guess people probably know that, but like,
well, you know, especially if you
all that, if you've seen Joe Exlender's movie
9/11, it's in there as a big component. So I hadn't seen this movie when I paired it with Leonard Cohen's album Popular Problems, and as I put the whole thing together and I watched it with the movie on mute, and then when I before I uploaded it, I just went through the whole thing and put volume up of the film in between all the vocals, and there comes a point where the girl is singing the song while she's panhandling, and it's freaking Leonard Cohen's Suzanne in French. So she's just like, and I'm like, wait, like I turned the volume up of the film and I got all tripped out because I was like, it's a Leonard Cohen album and I'm listening to a Leonard Cohen song like in the movie. And I'm like, well, that's freaking specific. And then I realized after I put the whole thing together, wait a second, there's a documentary from about Leonard Cohen called Bird on a Wire. There's a documentary on Philip Petit called Man on a Wire. So he's the bird on a wire, man on a wire, like a bird on a wire. Like,
do you remember when Leonard Cohen died?
Yeah, 2016.
the day Trump was elected, or the day before, or 2 days before.
September
November
21st,
7th.
yeah.
Because I remember when
Oh,
we
no,
were
yeah, November 7th.
we were driving across the country and listening to Leonard Cohen, and we were like just having this Leonard Cohen trip, and then all of a sudden he died, and like we were like, holy shit! And then Trump was elected 2 weeks. So,
Yeah,
what was
that's
I
a
gonna-
phenomenal sync, by the way, is The Walk and Leonard Cohen's album Popular Problems. I highly recommend it.
So just in case some random people haven't already heard about our buddy David, if you're watching for the first time, because I did just like meet some random people that are watching this for the first time. David does synchromistic work where he pairs movies with soundtracks. So if you go to thesyncbook.com and you go down here, you can click on the different videos that are made. Also, MK Ultrasound 723 on X will link you back to his sync work, and kind of like the way like Dark Side of the Moon
Highlights.
syncs with highlights. Sorry, syncs with Wizard of Oz. He's done a lot of. You'd be surprised how many times a movie either esoterically syncs with the album, or maybe someone intentionally did it, and it seems like a lot of both are happening. So definitely take the time if you're interested to check out the Cohen Wire sync, amongst others. I also like the the Jay-Z album with the World Trade Center movie. Is that right? Is it Jay-Z?
Oh, the Jay-Z, yeah, because Jay-Z's The Blueprint came out on September 11th, 2001. And he likes to brag about it. He's like, I dropped the same day as the Two Towers. I gained power, blah, blah. But then it's weird because Yoko Ono released her album Blueprint for a Sunrise on 11/9, 2001. So he did the Blueprint on 9/11. She did Blueprint for Sunrise 11/9.
That kind of syncs to today, because right now one of the more interesting video games that just came out is called The Blueprints.
Yeah, Expedition 33 and Blueprints are the best games in this year, probably.
Blueprints is like, I haven't played it yet, but it's like architectural, and that's just interesting that that's in the air now with Trump, in his plane and everything. So
a fantastic game actually. I would highly recommend checking out even just watching a gameplay run through. Check out Blueprints. It's a really interesting and esoteric story. That and Expedition 33. Have you been Expedition 33? Have you checked that out?
I've heard of it. I haven't been able to play any video games the past.
Don't even just watch Asmund Gold do it. Asmund Gold spent like the good part of the last 3 weeks playing like I think 30 or 40 hours so far of this game. And it's wildly good, and there's a bunch of esoteric, like everything about this game is symbolic. It's incredibly good. It's an incredibly good game. But even if you didn't care, the story it's like a Final Fantasy game with thousands of cutscenes.
JRPG.
But it's made by Americans, I think, or made by Westerners.
Right.
And it's made by like 20 or 30 people, but I'm sure it's like 32 or 33 or 23 or 18. It's like there's specific numbers involved everywhere along the way. I saw 47 and 42 come up a number of times in the game so far, and there's a bunch of occult symbols as well. I just hope that you get the chance to deep dive that one.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you, do you want to talk at all about Sean? Did you want to bring that up at all?
Sure.
Oh, hey, really quickly,
yeah.
Let's Bring It just gave me 5 memberships. Just thank you guys. If you got a membership, go check out some of our less than made for like not made for TV moments here. We have some of those in the members only zone. But yeah, Sean, just wanted to say go ahead.
Yeah, for anybody that didn't know, my best friend, honestly, Sean, guy who invented CryptoK, discovered it, passed away on May 8th after a long illness, or a year or so, and it sucks.
Totally.
But I don't know what can you do. He had some sort of cancer.
It's crazy right now. This is happening all the time. Yeah,
I know, it's weird, and especially him, because he was like, he was super like, didn't go to the doctor, was like very anti like the medicine and sort of stuff, but he still got it, and it's just rough. Anyway, he was a genius, and you can still go to his YouTube channel and check out the stuff that's up there for however long it's going to be. He was the man, and I honestly, like, the rest of my days, I'm going to probably be spending working on the stuff that we started together, and Anyway, here's to Sean. Everybody, he
Yeah.
was a listener of this show too. He listened when I started coming on, and he liked it. He loves your theme song. He was always like, "I love your theme song," and he actually planned on trying to come on and visit and do it one time, but he never made it. So sad, but yeah, Sean Montgomery.
Yeah, it's a major tragedy that we lost somebody so brilliant and so great. And it's awesome that he was able to influence you so much because, you're already a number genius. Like you're a savant in so many ways. But it's amazing to see.
He taught me everything he knew.
Yeah,
Basically.
the people that mentor you, that's crazy. And I thought this was kind of one of the. It's kind of almost funny how cool this is that you kind of wrote a crypto-cubrology obituary, and if you follow the links, like there's a lot of weird syncs just in and of itself about Sean, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, like well, the fact that he died on May 8th, which was the day that the new Pope became ascended. But the thing was that he went by Sean, but his first name was Robert, just like the Pope. So he has the same name. He was a Bob. Like I was joking about Pope Bob that day.
The Almighty Bob.
Yeah, and it also tied back to I'll just read my tweet there just to make it easy. He went by Sean, but his first name was Robert, so he was a Bob, just like today's new 267th Pope. And 267 makes 26/7, or July 26th, Kubrick's birthday. Plus he died, and then so 5/8 was the day that has 237 days left in the year. And I just said he would have loved all this stuff. And then I did mention that before Kubrick, Sean, he made this incredible documentary about Royal Rife and the lost sort of medical science of him. And it's a really just I would call a definitive documentary on the guy. And because he actually he went to the archives in London and was digging through stuff and actually found these tapes with these recorded interviews with Rife, hours and hours of recorded interviews with him, which is just holy shit, this is totally thing. So he basically used that to make this documentary, and it is available to watch. You can see it on Odyssey. There's a link in that thread. I highly recommend watching that too. And
we love Royal Rife here. We've had his great grandson on the show.
I know, yeah. I've always wondered if that guy's seen his documentary or not.
We'll make sure. I'll ask him to make sure because that's something to check out. But I think Sean also he's uploaded his documentary to the Odyssey, so you can check out this one.
Yeah, there's multiple copies up there. So.
Yeah,
I have a question for you. That video that so before I knew you, I think that was a long time ago. The video where you have these really strange, I think you were just showing it a second ago, these really strange flashes with accompanied by a sound that happen in The Shining.
Yeah.
Specific intervals and specific
it's just the sound, really. He added the flashes.
Added the flashes, okay. But the sound is there and you can hear it. Yeah. And I remember years ago. Didn't he upload that years and years ago? Yeah.
This was a long time.
So I saw that. I stumbled on that when I just was going through YouTube videos on weird anomalies in The Shining, and I had to go, and at the time, it's been so long, but I went and I went to the time codes in which he said to see my own copy. I think at the time it was on DVD. So I went, I was like, holy shit, no, he's right, it's there. So that was amazing to just be actually finding out later from you, I actually am familiar with this guy's work, it's out there. But question for you, and I could be wrong, but the stuff with we were discussing, you and I, on our one of those podcasts that we did about the hot tub stuff, did he do the Polanski Code video as well, or is that
that was him?
Boom,
bam,
revelatory, and that to me feels like some my own kind of processing around that whole trip. He fills in the blanks, really, really incredible.
Well, I'm glad that you say that, and he would have loved to. I mean, he would be happy to hear that because he really liked that video too. He would thought like I think he felt like that's my magnum opus or something like.
Really?
And I watched
Yeah.
it too. I was like, holy shit, this thing is really interesting if you give it the time. I mean, he's very like his videos are kind of hard to watch because they're dense and there's like lots of stuff on screen. You kind of sometimes even need to pause them to like read it, but it's worth it once you like kind of follow along. You start to just get overwhelmed by the amount of like synchronicity, and he also had a good way of like making it like giving an atmosphere because he always had good musical choices and like making it otherworldly and doing
You
justice.
showed that to me. I hadn't seen that video before you showed it to me. Andreas, before he showed that to me, you and I had a podcast once upon a time where I went off about Hal Craig and ABBA and all this stuff. The date that he's talking about in that video, March 10th, 1977, was the date that I went off on that podcast with you for an entirely different reason.
Right.
Like, as this is a very significant date because it bookended the siege in Washington where all these hostages were taken over the release of this Hal Craig film called The Message about Muhammad that doesn't show Muhammad, but there was the guy, they didn't know that the movie's being released. So he was just reacting to this Hal Craig film. And then, so on the 9th,
10/28
to be released. And then on the 11th was Airport 77, also co-written by Hal Craig. And I was like, did anything
else happen
Hal Craig, on the 10th? Because I'm like, you have the 9th and the 11th. I was like, did anything happen? And
he's
I
a
found
twin.
out.
He's a twin.
And just looking up the date, I didn't find the hot tub incident with Polanski. I found that the biggest threat, a bomb threat, had happened in rock and roll history. The biggest bomb threat happened in Australia for an ABBA concert. And so, like, that was what I came across. And I was like, that's crazy, because Hal Craig, who I was tripping out on, had written Waterloo, which originally Kubrick was set to do his Napoleon film, and then Waterloo like started production like 3 months after he dropped his own project. And like, I found letters in the Kubrick archives, one from what's her name, Breakfast at Tiffany's lady,
Audrey Hepburn
to Kubrick, bringing it up, saying like, are you aware that there's this Rod Steiger Napoleon film coming out? And so like, it's just like, so like, of all the things that could be so specific that it happened to be ABBA, of things that I could look up. And then later I see a video from Sean saying that the significance of that date for Polanski's hot tub time machine.
Yeah.
Unfreaking believable.
Which
like,
it's kind of like, it's almost like, you know, when in astronomy, when one team is like working in Australia and they find something, and then all of a sudden on the other side of the planet somebody else sees the same thing, and it's like triangulated signal.
How
it's
the
like,
hell?
yes, March 10th, 1977. It's the midpoint between The Exorcist and The Shining.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense because you think about Kubrick, you know, and he has a very mathematical and symbolic relationship with God and the Kabbalah, but also the same thing can be said about Islam itself, this sort of Arabesque interest in a depersonified God that's related to the synchronistic workings of reality itself, kind of a Spinoza's God kind of thing. So the obsession with showing this truth about both what is real in God, what is real in man, and what is real in nature. Those are the three true stories, right? It's man versus man, man versus God, man versus nature. And what are the focuses of Hal Craig? Well, Airport 77, Waterloo, and The Message, right? Which are, you know, and I think that is at very least something that makes sense. But when if you haven't, anyone should watch the interview that I did with David talking about this, because these are all subjects that were very openly passions of Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick was very, very obsessed and was working on making a Napoleon movie before Waterloo. In fact, we both have seen the the cards, the slides from the Kubrick exhibit in Scandinavia. I was in Denmark. I think you were in Sweden. You got to hold the cards there to see what they were working on.
His desk full of like note cards with every single day of Napoleon's life listed on it. And
it looks like I want to show a picture of it. It kind of reminds you of a library box, right? It's
Yeah,
essentially the library card system. Like,
he
that
had a
has
crypto
everything
case
set up.
system for Napoleon. It's like an
Yeah,
internet
but keep in
database.
mind, his film was to be a romance. It was not to be a war epic, which is why when he's pitching the thing to MGM, he's like, this won't be as costly as you might think. And he explains that I want to focus on the relationship between Josephine and Napoleon, which is not the film Waterloo, right? Even though the film Waterloo totally carries the classic Kubrick subtext like Dr. Strangelove does, where the whole thing is kind of this allegorical deal between Napoleon and the Duke of Wellington. But oh man, it gets so crazy because like years later you have the who did the Napoleon film more recently,
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott. So Ridley Scott's Napoleon,
Blade
if
Runner.
you watch the director's cut of it, it is as close as you could ever hope for of not being Kubrick's film, of being as close as you could hope for what Kubrick actually envisioned. Because what they cut out of that movie for its theatrical release is almost all the Josephine stuff. Like, it is a movie about the relationship between Napoleon and Josephine first and foremost in the director's cut. So it's like and I think that it was a screw you to Spielberg because of what Spielberg had done with AI. This is speculative, but I think that Ridley Scott was hip to that because wouldn't he see that? Like, why wouldn't he go look? Like,
I mean,
he's
it'd be
obviously
impossible not to be hip to that. All you have to do is
Right.
read the Kubrick treatment, which I think they published Kubrick's art kit for what he'd planned to do with artificial intelligence. You can actually now generally get a copy of that, right? Kubrick.
Right, but I mean
Artificial.
the actual Kubrick's actual vision for artificial intelligence is nothing like what Spielberg did
Oh,
at
none at
all.
all.
He did
No,
a
it's more like-
horror
it's more-
movie. Like,
It's more
this
like
is.
Cool World. It's basically Cool World, like back to Cool World. It's
Do
kind
you
of
see
crazy.
the symbolism of that? The
I
mouth,
mean,
pay. We're talking about the tower card. Pay is the mouth. They enter into Babylon through the mouth. They leave through a mouth in the sky in AI. So like they just, and that's Kubrick's. That's Kubrick's part.
Yeah.
Like, this is in his original conception. So Spielberg took parts of it, but Spielberg was set to do a Napoleon miniseries. I don't know if it's coming out now or not, but after it was announced that he's doing this miniseries, friggin' Ridley Scott jumped in and produced this epic Napoleon film, like, as though he's gonna beat him to the punch. He's like, "Oh, you want to do the same crap that you pulled with AI? You're now going to do that to his Napoleon film?" It like really looks like he just
How dare you.
"How dare
Yeah.
you?" Yeah.
I feel like I wanted to bring up, it's kind of like the man who killed Don Quixote. That's my pitch on Waterloo, because it's like you could be making the movie you planned on making, but then you look back and reflect on yourself and how you were when you wanted to make that movie. And so Waterloo is sort of in a shadow reflection of what the Napoleon Kubrick plan was. It's like looking back at both his plan to make that movie and himself, and how things have changed because he was no longer going to make that movie. Right?
The man who killed Don Quixote is 11 seconds longer than The Ninth Gate. The Ninth Gate came out in 1999, starring Johnny Depp, who, and also in 1999, was working on the original attempt at Don Quixote with what's his name? I'm sorry, the director, all the Monty Python. Terry Gilliam. Terry Gilliam. There's a documentary that you can watch from 1999 of their failed attempt of Don Quixote. And so, what is the very first scene in The Ninth Gate is Johnny Depp screwing an old man who had a stroke out of his copy of Don Quixote.
Oh my God!
That's the very first scene. So yeah, yeah, no, it gets crazy. And then if you want to talk about windmills and Trump and who Trump is in relationship to Don Quixote, it gets crazy. He's going to fight the windmill.
Amor wants us to answer their comment. Okay, so Amor says, "I hate what Kubrick did to poor Shelley Duvall. I wanted to bring this up earlier.
A myth.
Exactly. I wanted you to get the chance.
Which part is a myth, Alex? I'm curious.
Well, the myth that she was like somehow
like he Hitchcock.
The myth is that
psychologically. Yeah, that Hitchcocked her.
So-
The myth is that he Hitchcocked her into being like that's why she's insane and lost her mind.
no,
It's
she's-
all Kubrick's fault.
Yeah. Like the fact that she showed up on Dr. Phil with schizophrenia is Kubrick's fault.
No. That was so years later, and you can look at all the interviews from Shelley talking about her relationship with Kubrick and how she's like, "Wow, he got this out of me. He pushed her in a way to get that out of her."
Yeah.
And like, it's totally. I agree when people say that that's totally like really heavy and messed up. But the connection between her and the dementia, sorry, I don't see it.
And a lot of it also is due to the documentary, the making of documentary, which seemed to clearly be edited to make you kind of
by his daughter,
by his daughter, and but I think Kubrick probably was like totally like telling her. I mean, she did it, but he approved it, right? Like she wasn't just going to make something that and that's probably why, Full Metal Jacket, she was going to do a documentary for that, but he nixed it eventually, probably because she wanted to do something with it that was her own. But
it was kind of exploitative what they did years later with that interview, like
that was scummy.
She had dementia.
But it's kind of a happy. But the truth is, she had a very happy, fulfilling career after The Shining into the 80s and the 90s, and then she retired and she lived in Texas with her husband and had a nice life. And there was some, Dr. Phil, I think, is probably the one. There's a nice account on Twitter. This gal that made friends with her in the last couple years of her life and shared her visits and
Yeah, I mean, Kubrick challenged his actors in general. I don't think another actor or actress was as challenged in their role as Shelley was for The Shining. I think that there's an argument to be said there, but there's also all the interviews with her. I'm kind of repeating myself, but yeah, like from over the years addressing her experience with Kubrick, and I believe her. I like to think I believe women when they share their story.
I mean, her performance is incredible.
Matthew says that this is the one channel that I don't get killed with commercials every live. I don't know if it's because I'm a member or not. Fun fact, Matt, it is. So anybody who didn't know that, this is probably the best thing about being a member. If you're not YouTube Red, you get or YouTube Premium, I guess they call it now. You get a commercial-free experience if you're a member. So get a membership, or also just like someone will like donate $5 to the group and you'll grab one. That's good. But I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think it's fair to say that it was even just dementia. I do think that her life was traumatized in some way. I don't know. Do you really blame Kubrick, though? It's like, I don't really see it as Kubrick's fault because it didn't happen for decades after that. And like, what is the reason that she ended up unraveling? Do you really think
I think it's just normal aging, it's just aging in America. I don't think there's any real rhyme or reason to it.
She ate too many Fruit Loops. I don't fucking know, man.
She smoked a pack a day for 20 years. You saw her smoking in The Shining. But I mean, it's true to some degree, like that everybody who was in Kubrick movies is like kind of marked in this weird way. They're marked by the intensity of the role. They're marked by the like what they went through, but also just like there's this weird synchronistic magic at work with the casting where like they were cast for a reason. Like
So what I had heard was that the sale of her what's it called? She had like a production, like a fairy tale theater production company she was doing. And so they were doing a bunch of plays, and we didn't get to see those. We only see the movies, but the Stanislavski method thing was her thing to do. So a big problem with that, especially in West Coast, is a cult possession during Stanislavski method. So you become the character and you incorporate spirits into yourself. So if you go through multiple legions of demons, I mean, I don't think it's true that she was that kind of actress. That's the kind of actress that, I mean, we're seeing this happen to people. Will Smith, I don't think ever recovered from making the Muhammad Ali movie, for instance. I think in general, something can happen to you where you open yourself up to that. I mean, Jim Carrey becoming Tony Clifton and Andy Kaufman. Yeah, is it the director that helps them do that? I don't know if that's exactly fair. and
that's the birth of tragedy too, you know, is that whole idea that you're going to take a god archetype, one of the gods, and you're going to bring it into yourself to embody this thing, and it takes over you. That's why Jim Morrison was all obsessed with that book, and it's also Stanley Kubrick in the first place, the Nietzsche connection, you know. So yeah, no, I mean, it's that's a thing.
Fairy tale. I'm gonna blame that to the Kubrick. That's all I'm saying.
To give an example, just now we're talking about Shelley Duvall, and I'm just remembering now how when she died, it was like totally incredibly synchronistic for me, because I was writing a piece on my Substack basically because looking at the day, like the day, and in advance, and saying like, oh, because of that movie Long Legs and Fly Me to the Moon, about the moon landing, they both came out the day of, and it was 1776 weeks since Elon Musk's 19th birthday.
Fly Me to the Moon came out the day and year of Shelley's death?
It's like, yeah, within a couple days. It's like
within a
I need to check which day Shelley Duvall. I always forget. She died on it was day of July 11th. Yeah. The day of Fly Me to the Moon and Long Legs.
So
Long Legs is the other scene.
She died in July 16th.
Yeah.
The Apollo 11 launch, Danny with the Apollo sweater, this like Kubrick and the moon landing, like this. I think that Fly Me to the Moon movie, and we've talked about this, but I think it's in all likelihood as funny as it is, as ridiculous as it is, I think it's the closest depiction of what my personal feeling around what actually happened with the moon landing. I think we faked it, and I think we went there. And not a popular view, but that's my view. Right. So yeah.
Well, the other connection, I don't know if I want to underline.
July 12th instead of the 11th, but so.
Well, here's the thing. It says July 12th, but they actually, like, the day it showed up in theaters is July 11th. Because like,
probably on Wikipedia it says both.
It's weird. It's weird. Like, the official release date is like a Friday, but then they actually drop in theaters on Thursday. So I go into that all the stuff in the article or whatever, the timing of it. But I was looking at the 11th, and then, because it was 1776 weeks since Elon Musk turned 19, which tied into my whole Purple Rain thesis about Willy Wonka and everything. So I was just like, what's going to happen on this day? I wake up, Shelley Duvall is dead. Boom. Kubrick connection. The movie's coming out, Long Legs. Shelley Duvall and her long legs. She's olive oil, basically. She's that character. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. And then Long Legs being directed by Oz Perkins. Oz Perkins is the son of Anthony Perkins and Barry Berenson, who died on Flight 11 on 9/11, and he himself was born 237 weeks after the moon landing. And then the last thing I want to say is that I found, after I read the article or wrote the article, I realized Shelley Duvall that day was 237 weeks since Sue Lyon died. Sue Lyon played Lolita in Kubrick.
Right.
Kubrick's Lolita. So 237 weeks between Shelley Duvall and Sue Lyon.
Insane.
So that's Crypto-K for you.
Right.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild right there.
Can you address something about people being kind of marked when they're had these roles, these archetypal roles in these Kubrick films? Like, certain things I've been tripping out of completely. Like, okay, so you got Shelley Duvall with Robin Williams in Popeye, right? Robin Williams was Peter Pan, right? Peter Pan got the same treatment that AI did, where he took something that should have been absolutely terrifying. Like, that is a horror story to the max. Like, the actual story of Peter Pan, like he is.
And the beginning is a horror story.
Yeah, he's modeled after. This is just to be clear. Wendy is a name that did not exist before Peter Pan. It was a name that was come up for the character in Peter Pan as a name, Wendy, spelled that way as it exists, right? So, like, that's in The Shining. Wendy, darling, light of my life. I don't want to hurt you. I just want to bash your effing brains in, right? So, like, Wendy, darling. That's
kind of
her.
Like Lolita, light of my life, fire of my loins. Also,
Lolita thing. It makes the course exactly. And so,
who wrote Peter Pan? Barry. So
J.M.
Barry.
Totally.
So it's just and bears are all over Peter Pan too, and
So
Hook. And...
he kidnaps the kids, and then he murders them before they get older. And if they escape him, because if they escape Pan, they end up pirates who are trying to. They end up adults in Never Neverland who try to kill Peter Pan. Captain Hook became Captain Hook because he tried to kill Peter and he cut his hand off. And then that's a Saudi Star issue, and that's a whole other giant freaking rabbit hole. But like the symbolism out of control, Peter Pan. Catcher in the Rye. Like, so Catcher in the Rye, Wendy Darling's first scene in The Shining is her holding Catcher in the Rye, right? The sequel to Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger that explains the paragraph that Mark David Chapman read in court over the killing of John Lennon. So the sequel is called The Last and Best of the Peter Pans by J.D. Salinger. So like, and which was specified by him not to be released, I believe, until 2050, but you can read the cliff notes. It is actually available at this point. But so like, oh man, there's so much there. So like, even Jack Nicholson ends up being the Joker, the symbolism of the Joker, Private Joker, Matthew Modine. So like in Full Metal Jacket, Matthew Modine is Private Joker. He goes on to play Commissioner Gordon in the same sets of those other Batman films, right? So like, you have Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and then you have Heath Ledger as the Joker, and then you have Matthew Modine as Commissioner Gordon, who was Private Joker. It's a private joke. Like, I'm just saying, like, these people are imprinted with this, like, there's something absolutely batshit going on. No pun intended.
Also, July 11th, 1962, first transatlantic satellite television transmission, and the Project Apollo. NASA announces the lunar orbit rendezvous as the means of landing the astronauts on the moon. So all of this kind of back to July 11th, synchro
Catcher in the Rye too was published on July 16th.
And Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination.
Catcher
in the Rye, 1960.
So 1951, I think, or something like.
I thought
July it really 16th. Was. It was published July 16th. That's the actual
July 11th. July 11th.
Wait, Catcher in the Rye?
Catcher in the Rye.
Oh no! I'm sorry. I'm thinking To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird is also July 11th.
Okay. Oh, you're right. July 11th, 1960.
What was the publication date of Catcher in the Rye?
So that's July 16th, 1951. Yeah. So that's going to be 1969, 1951, 18 years before the Apollo 11 launch.
What the hell? So the day, okay.
Dude, 1983, a Boeing 747 crashes in Ecuador, killing 119 passengers too. That's fun.
July 16th, just to be clear, I said it, but I have to restate my assumptions like Max and Pi. So you have July 16th is the release date of Eyes Wide Shut, which was specified by Kubrick before he died. Like, there's symbolism to that. That is a day
30
year. It's a year. What is the anniversary in reverse of what will be the following year of the infiltration of Bohemian Grove by John Ronson and Alex Jones.
And the beginning of the Muhammad calendar starts July 16th, 622.
July 16th, 1999, the release date of Eyes Wide Shut is also the day and year that John F. Kennedy Jr. died. So, and then Apollo 11 took off from Cape Kennedy. So I just want to lay that out.
1945, it's the Trinity explosion too. So it's the explosion of the first atomic bomb on July 16th.
Oh my God!
It just keeps going. I'm trying to find this. Honestly, I don't want to even bring it up if I can't find it. But Sean, at one point,
the District of Columbia is established July 16th, 1790.
Oh, I don't know. He figured out which page of the shot of Catcher in the Rye Shelley's reading in that scene, which you can do, and you can figure it out.
And how they don't show you the book? I thought she's holding it like that.
He figured it out somehow. And but anyway, there's this. You find it and you read it, and there's like it's this page because it's talking about the movie. It's like literally there's like an axe involved. I'm gonna chop him up, something like that. I'm trying to find it. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it.
When he's talking about is it the part where about the pimp where he's fantasizing about murdering the pimp in the elevator?
I can't remember.
Because Holden Caulfield, he gets the prostitute up to the room, and then she says that he owes her this money, and then he's like, that's not what the amount we discussed, and then the pimp comes and forces him to pay it. Yeah. Weird.
I can't find this stuff, but
And then, yeah, you fantasize about killing the pimp. That's the only
You,
part I can
you,
think of
you
where there's an
covered the
actual.
atomic age started July 16th, 1945, right? The Manhattan
Yes.
Project detonates the first bomb.
Yes.
Okay, good.
That's a
Making
big.
sure we
That's
got
a
that.
huge one. That's how
Yeah,
because
the
like
atomic age begins.
Twin Peaks depicts that scene so intensely. I wanted to bring before you're to Hal Craig. I just wanted to bring this up. You skated over his IMDb page where I noticed that he was also born October 28th, just like the Q thing and the Philadelphia experiment, which is pretty funny. I mean,
And
if you
JFK
think
Jr.
of
dies.
sort of front. Go ahead.
JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, their plane crashed July 16th, 1999.
Yeah, that's the day.
That's what I'm saying.
That's,
yeah, the day and year of the release of Eyes Wide Shut. It's crazy.
Oh
and
God.
So also just mentioning, like, if you're going to talk about Hal Craig's obituary in the New York Times explicitly states that he wrote Barry Lyndon. If you go on to IMDb, it will not tell you that. So I was already speculating like crazy before I ever came across that Hal Craig had assistance from Kubrick to write Waterloo, because he dropped his own Napoleon project, and Waterloo carries his subtext that's used in other Kubrick films. So
Harry
yeah, no.
Craig. Isn't there a Harry? No, there's a Harry Crane in that.
Barry Lyndon. See, he also worked on films with Harry Lyndon. Yeah, what the hell?
He worked on the films.
No, but this is Times obituary states that if you go to the obituary itself, this isn't it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Times Hal Craig, Barry Lyndon. Let's see if I go.
Or if you go
New
to
York
just
Times, 57.
is
right
this
there.
his obituary? Yeah, scroll. Is this his obituary?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It says here, some of the best known broadcast third program is scripts on films, such as Charge of the Light Brigade and Barry Lyndon.
Right.
Right there.
Unaccredited. So what's that about? It just so happens that I was already extrapolating before I saw this. That's a syntax thing. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? What is the probability? Like, the probability is already crazy, but for that to come second, like,
George Wendt is dead.
oh, that just happened?
Yeah, worth mentioning. 31 minutes ago, maybe a half hour ago or an hour. George Wendt from Norm from Cheers dies at 76. Norm Peterson is gone.
So Norm Peterson is in that Black or White Michael Jackson video with Macaulay Culkin at the beginning. Right? He's the dad, right? When they do, I'm saying because they do the that's a Kubrick reference in Back to the Future, and the first Back to the Future, when it has the what code is it? It's not the bomb code. It's, Alex. The
CRM
114. Yeah. So like in Back to the Future, so they reenact that scene where they have the Kubrick reference in Michael Jackson's Black or White video. Keep in mind, Michael Jackson's childhood home has the recreation of the 2001 monolith in his front yard, where they equate him being the moonwalker with Moonwatcher from the book 2001: A Space Odyssey. He also had the thing with the monkey bubbles and all of that. So it's symbolic. Yeah, crazy.
That video, Black or White. I'm pretty sure this. I'm trying to figure this from memory, but the day that came out was Donald Trump was 2,370 weeks old exactly, which is the same age of Kubrick when The Exorcist came out. So,
oh God,
Trump and Jackson having that weird kind of relationship, and that video especially. Black or White, because that's actually a theme in a lot of Sean videos and in analyzing Kubrick and stuff, is like this constant like black and white being opposed, and that's just like a trope. So
allegedly, Trump stopped a mugger on November 14th, 1981. Is that right?
Oh shit.
Lawrence, Private Lawrence.
Wow. That's a wild one right there. You brought up, since we brought back to Trump, what about the Trump shuttle? Because I know we talked about the 747 earlier.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that. That was his airline. He bought an airline at one point, Trump Airline.
Yeah, right.
And what I found amazing was, if you look at the dates on that page. Sorry, there's a truck up there. I don't know if you can hear it, but on the dates, you got if you scroll down, okay, June 7th, 89 to April 7th. So April 7th, 1992. That's 4/7. That's the day it ceased operations. And what I did was I went from that day to that day I was talking about which was the first flight of the 747 on Barron Trump's 5th birthday. And it's 19 days before. So Barron Trump and that plane is introduced 19 days before the 19th anniversary of the airline closing down. 19 days before the 19th anniversary of Trump Airlines going down, the 747 makes its first flight. So sorry if that was really awkward, but it's always harder to speak these things than it is to like perceive them. But yeah, there's something going on with Trump and his son. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's true. They had the Trump 2028, and it's like his son wearing the hat on the website. It's like everyone's freaking out. They're like, he's gonna do a third term, and you're like, dude, it's his son, dude. That's the joke. There's more than one Trump, you guys. Like that's some next level trolling right there.
Oh God! Now my instinct here. How old is Barron Trump when the plane gift?
Oh, you're talking about Barron Trump when you're talking about his son.
Yeah. Oh my God! Perfect. So okay, the plane gift news. I think is May 11th. Barron was exactly 999 weeks old. 999, which is actually that's the amount of time between The Shining and Eyes Wide Shut. So it's
999 weeks.
Yep, 999 weeks from The Shining to Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
Some crazy stuff. I don't know.
50.
Let's see. There's another one. Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, 9/10, 2001.
9/10 and 9/7. Technically, there's a show on 9/7. That was the first one, and then 9/10 they had a second.
That was a really significant show because that was his attempt to steer the PR narrative about himself. Was be like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna do something, and then it was completely drowned out by 9/11 the next day. Like he would have been in the news cycle at that point. Like Michael Jackson just played with the Jackson 5 again. Did you hear? But it was like there was no other news on September 11th, 2001.
No.
That was it. Yeah.
Nope. Yeah, and he was supposed to be in the towers that day, allegedly, right? Too. That was the story he told. Or maybe Jermaine Jackson, I think, made that claim that Michael was supposed to be in the trade towers that day. Like he had a meeting that morning. that he overslept.
Tried to get him to go there, and he was like, "No, he got a
letter." Yeah. My friend Donnie called and told me not to go.
Yeah. Huh. Oh man.
Death to my internet. I'm sorry.
Sorry, this is dead air.
Well, no, a little pause for reflection there. I think it'll be okay.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good to have those.
Yeah. Right. So, okay.
That's what separates the podcast from the streamers.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I gotta know what a $5 shake tastes like. Okay. Sorry.
Well, so I wanted to pull up also like cryptology Substack for a second. Is there anything that you wanted to share from what you've been doing recently? I know you didn't know a Campbell episode.
Yeah, I sort of haven't added much the past 3 months since I've been moving and really busy. But I actually, you can check out all my podcasts and stuff for sure. They're still there. And my most recent article, Stanley is a Bear, is still free to read if you haven't. It's a breakdown of, it's actually kind of appropriate since Sean passed away, that it's sort of starts off with about a little bit about the history of CryptoK and when Sean first published his website, which was on December 21st, 2012, funnily enough. And then it goes into all this, the subliminal bears and other things, Die Hard.
Yeah, so you brought up bears a couple of times, and I've been thinking about the Bears, Grateful Dead and the Bears and everything. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of harping down that path a second ago with Wendy, Peter Pan, and Winnie the Pooh, Mercurial, Aleister Crowley, and the Mr. Sunshine, the Bear. What do you think the deal is with bear symbolism, right? Because the bears are really important. Just that random scene of the bear in The Shining isn't random. What do you feel about the primal energy?
Well, it's just one of these things that Sean's whole thing about CryptoK really started with the bears. This thing called the subliminal bears, where arguably some sort of delusion.
George went, the Bears.
The Bears. Wait, who was George Wendt? I don't even know who that is. George GW though. 7. Oh, him.
George went from
friggin'
Cheers.
Norm used to go,
Norm
"The Bears."
McDonald. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nephew of or uncle of Jason Sudeikis too. Wow. That's
Oh my
interesting.
God.
Wow,
Yeah, no,
George.
and
Yeah, he's kind of a bear. He's kind of a teddy.
Well, because the Chicago Bears, I recently
The
watched
Chicago
Ferris
Bears, and we have a
Bueller.
Chicago Pope. That's the other thing
I
with
watched
Sean.
Ferris Bueller recently, and then they're like, the father isn't paying attention, and his son is on the screen, and then he looks at the screen, and he doesn't see that his son was on the camera, and he asks like, "Who's winning?" And then at first he says, "What's the score?" They're like 0-0, and then he's like, "Well, who's winning?" And he's like, "The Bears." It's like part of Ferris Bueller as well. This idea,
Right. It's kind of in it, like just everywhere when you really start looking for it. And yeah, that was another
What
thing.
number does he wear when he says the Bears? 9 is 9.
I see now. He's the guy on
Yeah,
Saturday Night Live
he's the
saying,
guy on Saturday Night Live. He says the Bears.
Okay, it's starting to.
Well, there's also the Cubbies, right? If we're talking about Bears, because that's Back to the Future when they say that the Cubs are going to win the won the World Series, and then the year that that Back to the Future 2 was supposed to take place in the future, they didn't win, but they won the next year. You remember? And which was an anomaly to have the Cubs win the World Series. So just saying, another Bears.
If I could have put some money on the Cubbies, I would go back in time to put some money on the Cubbies. Back to the Future.
That's the last little component of that sync with Sean's death is that he came up with the Bears and everything, and then he's Robert, the Pope Robert, and the Pope is from Chicago. He's a bear, he's from Chicago, so he's of the Bears.
Well,
or the Cubs. But apparently he was a White Sox fan. I don't know what the deal was there. But what was I gonna say about the Bears?
Bear bull market.
Sean started off finding subliminal bears on Genesis album covers. He made these videos, and then he kind of moved into Kubrick, and people hated it. People just like couldn't handle it. Maybe for good reason, I don't know, but it sort of proved the test of time, I think. And my article kind of, I think, goes some way to sort of like proving that this bears thing is a legit like synchronistic phenomenon or like subset of symbolism that is being employed by Hollywood.
He's got the whole subliminal bears thing, but the bears are there anyway, overtly, like the bear rug that disappears and reappears, and the pillow it's not just that, it's like what is being said specifically at those times when the bears show up in The Shining.
Oh, it's a good question.
So that's the thing, and it's also the abuse that Danny's experienced with his father, and the psychiatrist kind of like trying to get to it, but they're leaving on this trip, right? Like right afterwards. So it's like there's something there that needs to be dealt with. But if you can, the idea that Eyes Wide Shut ultimately subliminally, talk about something subliminal, that those two guys from Ziegler's Party follow Helena around the corner at the toy store at the end, where there's also bears, the stuffed bear that's like the big bear that, you know what I'm talking about, where she's like in the
he's big. He's big.
Yeah, exactly. And so like it's weird, like in every case you can see the same association of child abuse in relationship with the bears. Not only that, it's like and so who broke the story? Who's the first person? What was it, Newsweek, to break the story about Epstein? And then it turned out it was the same guy in Eyes Wide Shut. If you zoom in on the newspaper where it says the beauty queen died, it's the same freaking guy. Like he was a tabloid journalist, but it's a fake article. They have a real name. Kubrick put a real name, and it happens to be the same guy who broke the Epstein thing. So like, and what?
He's like the beat, whatever that beat writer is for that publication, the New York Post or whatever that was. And that's another example of a Kubrick sort of charging that like name or whatever, that maybe that's why it's going in reverse. Like the Kubrick corpus seems to be this weird oracle that's really kind of what his discovery was kind of, and his kind of craziest thing is that like all 12 movies of Stanley Kubrick are like puzzle pieces in a greater puzzle, and they all
12 movies. It's like 10 main movies, and then you're including
there's 12. I mean, there's 12 features that are they're all Kubrick. Like there's Fear, Desire,
Fear,
not
fear,
including
Fear and Desire and
Fear and Desire, Killer's Kiss, The Killing.
The Day of the Fight? No, you're not including that.
Not including. There's features. So
Yeah.
Fear and Desire,
Features. Yeah, okay.
Killer's Kiss, The Killing, Paths of Glory.
Yeah.
Excluding Spartacus because he did not have editing, control in that. That was a Kirk Douglas movie. No, Cat, I don't want you. Sorry. So that's what my background is on my thing here. It's just like, is all 12 movies put together, and that's something I've been trying to kind of experiment with too, because he did lots of stuff with it, and I've only recently been able to get into it. And then when you do it, it is powerful and weird, and I'm going to be doing more, probably writing about it in the future. So
I wanted to bring a BJ in the Bear.
BJ in the Bear. I just love it. How does this relate to The Shining? So like this came out before The Shining, but it's just like a very strange. I've never seen it. It's just a matter of the surface level like sync. But I'm sure I did this before. But if you do like the time between this TV show started and The Shining or something, it's going to be something interesting.
Can you scroll down just a little bit? I want to see the info on it. I'm just curious.
Oh yeah.
Oh no! Oh, not that part, but that works too. Actually, whatever. Okay, never mind.
Which part do you want to see?
I don't know. I just wanted to see the.
Oh, actually, this is like cotemporous with The Shining. So The Shining premiered as this was airing. So that's got to be. Oh, it's Christopher Crowe. This is why I remember finding it.
9th,
if you click on that guy named Christopher Crowe.
Let's be clear. A bear gives a man a BJ in The Shining.
Right. A man in a bear suit, to be clear.
Yeah,
I can't remember how I got to this guy, but
and then in Hot Tub Time Machine, the bear is in the hot tub, and then when they first arrive at the cabin, they make a Shining reference of the guy's gonna hack him up into pieces while working on a novel or whatever. Yeah.
The association is eternally like paranormal, bears, and time travel,
right?
Of some kind, eternal.
Right. Keep in mind that was Kubrick's explanation of the end of The Shining is quote unquote. He says it's an evil reincarnation cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the whole thing dealing with time, and then the Saturn thing at the beginning. You mean they ate each other up?
Yeah. Okay, I just noticed that it's the monkey's name Bear.
The monkey's name is Bear. Okay, Greg Evigan stars as Billy Joe. Okay, a professional freelance itinerant trucker.
K100 Aerodyne.
Drives on a cannon with K100 and with his pet chimpanzee Bear, named after Bear Bryant, the college football coach. Interesting, the college football coach. All right.
There's lots of bears, and so in sports, like Jack Nicklaus.
September 11th.
Born September 11th. Perfect. Jack Nicklaus was called the Golden Bear. It's just even like this is Jack Nicklaus, Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, and he wasn't like Obama's Barry, right? Oh, that's weird.
Yes, yeah, Obama's a Barry. Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon. Is that the subliminal one? Barry Lyndon, not the bear.
Barry Berenson.
It's in the title.
Not only is Barry Lyndon has Marissa Berenson in it, but her sister is Barry Berenson.
You see the Rose Cross.
And she died on 9/11.
Even the other posters for Barry Lyndon, the subliminal Rose Cross, because it's got the gun crosses with the rose, so it's like the Rosicrucian reference. Speaking of Shelley Duvall, when she's in the Woody Allen movie, what is the Woody Allen movie with her where she says she's a Rosicrucian and she's wearing a dress covered in roses? It's like, what is that? Annie Hall? Isn't she in Annie Hall? I think. Shelley Duvall.
Annie Hall. Yes, Annie Hall.
I think
that's like she hardly has any lines in that movie, but one of them is like she's talking about how she's a Rosicrucian, and you look at it, it's so funny.
Well, her first appearance comes in Brewster McCloud, which is totally insanely loaded movie by Robert Altman, where it's really clear that like Shelley Duvall's I don't know how to really get into it, but the other person in that movie is Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch in Wizard of Oz. So there's this weird sort of switch off between Margaret Hamilton and Shelley Duvall. Like it's like Margaret Hamilton is killed off basically, and then in the next scene, here's Shelley, and it's like she's the new witch or something. It's like,
Right. They totally do that. And she says these little statements in there to reference back, which you'd expect, because it's just that's what we associate her with, being the Wicked Witch. But she says certain lines that harken back to her as the witch. So she's like playing the witch in this really weird way. I forgot about that. It's weird.
yeah.
Another movie that she was in.
Well, the other thing about
another movie she was in
Brewster is basically the trope of it is the guy it's kind of like Icarus. Basically, it's a kid who is learning to build wings because he wants to learn he wants to fly, and so I think there's something to like this idea that putting the bears on the ground, but the birds in the sky. So it's like the bears and the birds, and it's like this whole story is like taking flight. Like humans taking flight is a very big deal, and so that's why the plane thing and the 777 is so huge. Like it really that plane symbolizes like our humans' mastery of the sky, right? And
totally. Hey, watch the rehearsal. The new season.
God, I'm gonna get to it. I gotta get to it. I don't even want to hear about it. Like
it's kind of everything. Yeah,
I know. I'm sure.
I gotta say one thing. It's only a spoiler if you watch the first 10 seconds of the show, right? But so the premise you're dealing with is pilots being like, can a co-pilot be in a position to influence the pilot if need be in a crisis situation? That show the first episode premiered of the second season of the rehearsal. That's the theme of the show. Is right when the news the transcript came out of the Black Hawk helicopter crashing into the passenger plane, that's literally what happened. So what the whole emphasis of the show is literally like what just came out at that moment. It's crazy.
That's gonna, don't tell the predictive programmers, like they're gonna be like, oh no, PSYOP and Nathan Fielder's a part of the time. Maybe he is.
I don't know. Sleep doesn't kill people. People kill people. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. Totally. For sure. I hear you. I can't wait to get to that show. It seems like transcendent some way. I mean, I love Nathan For You. It's just so fucking hilarious.
It's true. Bedazzled is a totally crazy movie. The original Bedazzled. You should watch that.
I do like that.
I just want to say, like, when you're talking about Icarus, like that, I forgot all about this. Is like I've been meaning to make a meme for years, and I keep forgetting to do it. Where it's Max and Pi with his teacher Saul, and he says, and he's feeding his fish, and he says, I named him after you. His name is Icarus. I named him after you, my renegade pupil. Where I wanted to have two panels where he's feeding the fish, and he says, my renegade pupil, and the next panel is like a close up of his face, and he's got one of his pupils is like off to the side, like he's got a renegade pupil. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well,
what's lazy eye?
What's a sync film you want to recommend for people who haven't checked out your work, or anyone this week?
This week I'm gonna go with I'd like to recommend The Walk with Leonard Cohen's Popular Problems.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean you could download it for it's free for streaming and download from the site, which would probably be generally I think these are better quality versions is from the website, but
that's how it works. I think you type from.
So there it is.
You can do it right there.
Yeah, if you want.
I'm starting to learn to use Twitter. From at MK Ultrasound 723, The Walk. You'll find the Cohen one right here. The full movie with the full sync just on X. How cool is that? You don't have to pay. Just go watch it right now.
Yeah, if you want to simplify it, you could share it, but that's up to you.
Oh, you could just all right, fair enough. Let's do it.
Hey, the guy in the chat ran there had a good point to point out that Steve Mongo McMichael from the Chicago Bears died 2 weeks ago. Well, he died basically like 2 days after the Pope. So that's he's a Chicago Bear lifer and pro wrestler also, one of the Four Horsemen, and so that's another little almost like an omen of the
Four Horsemen. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a Four Horsemen.
Totally. Wow.
So also just want to say, I know in the chat there's been some high energy this evening, and the mods have been erring on the side of caution. I saw some tweets back and forth about that, but let's understand how hard it is to be a mod and be kind of like patient with each other. And you know, if you want to say something, you can reach out. It's cool to say stuff in the YouTube chat here, but you have to understand what Google's like. It's very terrifying what's going to happen. Maybe if you're talking through X, but feel free in the X to, like, you know, you can comment what you want directly in X, and I'm going to see it. And you know, don't worry. Like, if you feel like you're being oppressed or censored, like you probably are, and we're living in a dictatorship, and there's just not much you can do about that. But I appreciate that you're all here, and yeah, make sure you go check out MK Ultrasound. You're gonna watch out MK Ultrasound videos. I just put it up on my Twitter as well. But like and follow these people here. Follow my friend David Plate. Follow Crypto Cubrology, Alex, right here, because you know, like, look how like twisted and sick this man's mind is. He just thinks about math all the time. Freak. No, but I love him so much.
Sean's things that he made,
dude. And yeah, like, rest in peace, Sean. You know, you were a major inspiration to some of the greatest people I know. So we're very grateful to continue your legacy, and I hope that everyone who's watching, that they can pick up on where you left off, Sean, because you've got some incredible videos here. And so yeah,
there's a void. There's a void in sync,
dude,
that needs to be filled.
Enter that void. And yeah, you guys know where you can find me anytime you're interested in a little bit more of this stuff. Just like head on down to the Exertus, Andreas Exertus, this and that. You know, exertus.com, I think, is another one you can find me at. And like they say in the YouTube world, if you enjoyed this, you know.
If you enjoyed, I think he's saying like and subscribe. As just a guess.
Something like that. I'm trying to get my this is perfect.
You know that Mark Leclerc and Sean are just kicking it, you know. But
yeah, I hope so. They're not arguing or anything.